troops to crisis points around the globe. So we do need to accelerate our timetable in the drawdown. I've also been over to Pakistan. I've been on the border with Afghanistan. I've studied the history there. I almost worked there. It was too dangerous for me to go back in the early 90s. The place where I was going to stay got bombed, and I was on a flight there and had to turn around and come back. That is not a country where we can achieve a fast victory. That has been proven over the course of the past 10 years, because that's how long we've been there. We could spend the next 50 years there, and we will not make much progress. That's not to say that we have to be irresponsible in terms of pulling out, but we need to be realistic about what our real goals are there and what we can realistically achieve. So I believe in an accelerated timetable. I believe in bringing our troops home. I believe in, as I said, reinvesting that money in jobs programs right here in the public works area, putting folks back to work. And that goes for Iraq too. You know, we've got 50,000 troops in Iraq. We've got over 40,000 troops in Germany. We've got 37,000 troops in Korea. We've got 200 military bases in 150 countries around the world. We're spending almost $1 trillion a year on defense. That is too much. We have too many challenges here at home to be spending that way. And I've studied DoD. I know where the waste, fraud, and abuse is there, having done the work that I did down in Washington. And so I know where to cut without sacrificing our security, and that's what I would focus on.
Thank you, Tom. Mr. Massey.
As I mentioned before, the world is changing rapidly around us, and for the United States to remain the beacon of hope and the power, we need to continue to change with it. There are an incredible network of organizations and countries working together, and the United States, I agree, cannot be the policeman of all of these groups. We have to learn to exhibit and to contribute from our strengths, from our talented population, from the fact that people want to come here to study, from the fact that people love American culture, and most of all because people admire American freedom. It is a good thing that countries around the world and citizens around the world are rising up and trying to push aside tyrants who have dictated for too long how their countries are run. And so I think we should be, although there's always scary moments when countries undergo change, I think the United States should consistently advocate for democracy in the countries, for example, in the Middle East and other places which we have seen trying to rise up and seize new opportunities for themselves. I completely agree on the drawdown. That needs to be rapid. We've spent almost $1 trillion over the last 10 years, and that is an enormous amount of money. We spend almost $20 billion a year on air conditioning in Iraq and Afghanistan. And although I'm very glad that when my good friend said he was there, he was kept cool and healthy, and I believe that, I think in the end we can put those dollars to work here, and we need to do that. There are different forms of power. The United States has tremendous military power, but it does not solve all our problems, and we have to find a way in a networked and balanced and global economy where people are shipping things from one country to another as fast as you can blink. The United States has to play a different kind of role than it did in the 20th century.
Thank you, Carissa.
Thank you. My father is a Vietnam veteran, and so as a daughter of that war, I say emphatically and unequivocally that the troops need to come home by December 2012, end of story. And let's be very clear when we talk about foreign policy, because people mix foreign policy with military policy, and they're two different things. There's military policy and there's foreign diplomacy. I have experience in that. I represent clients from all over the world. I have to deal with their very sensitive issues, and I have to deal with their foreign embassies in some not so nice places where you have to have the skill and the ability to get your client out of there with as little harm as possible and make sure that you don't ruffle any feathers. That's my experience for the last 15 years on the ground. I actually went to Northern Ireland. I did a summer study at Trinity College when there still was bombing and there still was killing. I was in Belfast, so I have been on the ground in dangerous places, and I was there. That was it. And as far as Scott Brown wavering on any of these issues, he said nothing. And we cannot be the police of the world. I know. I get the humanitarian urge to want to help people. I represent those clients, women from Afghanistan, people from Iran. Believe me, I've had fights with that country. And it's very heartbreaking. But we cannot do that, and we need to get our own house in order. And for military contractors, let's not kid ourselves. They get our money. It's corporate welfare. So if they want to take federal dollars, then we must have mechanisms in those contracts. They are going to create jobs and not have layoffs. And if they do, they get no more contracts, period. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Franco. Mayor Warren, you touched on the issues just in your the last question, but if you want to expand upon it.
Sure. Just a few points I'd like to make. I care deeply about the security of the United States of America and keeping us safe. And that means we do have to invest in areas that actually do protect the United States of America. Intelligence assets, and sharing and all the rest. But we must, as a country, understand there are 100 different nations and states around the world with a serious terrorist threat. We can't send troops into every one of those countries. We have to make sure we have a stable world so that our economy works and we are not in a destabilization mode in our region and otherwise. So what we need to do is reduce our military footprint around the world. We have to meet our deadline and bring the 50,000 troops home in Iraq. We must speed up the withdrawal of our troops in Afghanistan. We have 100,000 troops there. I'm pleased the President has started that. We have to make sure that we really strengthen our diplomatic efforts. And that means holding our friends and foes alike accountable, including Pakistan. Afghanistan is a very complicated region. We've got to promote institutions that solve problems through politics and not through violence. And that means making investment in the State Department and USAID so that we have a real capacity to use diplomacy. And lastly, I would say we have to invest in making sure that famine and disease and basic infrastructure around the world is stable so that we don't have regions in Africa that become unglued because of events that we see in the Sudan, the famine that we see in different parts of Africa, which actually promotes terrorism and terrorist organizations that threaten not only the United States but other countries and around the region. Those are the areas that we need to concentrate on. We have to get away from the Cold War model of militarization, of solving problems internationally. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Robinson.
Well, I think you're going to find we're all in a violent agreement on this one. I believe the troops in Iraq and Afghanistan should come home as soon as possible. Certainly, mission has been accomplished in Afghanistan. We're not really accomplishing anything there anymore, and we need the money. Iraq, I'm not sure we ever had a mission there. Anyway, in terms of getting involved in future wars, I think we must be much more careful about doing that. One of the greatest things about America is how we set an example for the rest of the world to follow. And in terms of getting involved in military excursions, we haven't been so good at that lately. We need to be better.
Thank you.